Hi guys. Right, so my lightning talk for this is more about pretty much a basic demonstration about what we're working on inside Chrome, the current implementation that we have, and some of the kind of the areas that I'd like us to try and think about today. Obviously, it's up to you guys whether you even want to kind of consider those type of things. I will just warn everyone first. I've lost a little bit of weight recently, and my pants have a tendency to just fall down. So if it happens, I'm not trying to be rude. It just happens, unfortunately. I've not been able to buy new pants, so. Right, let me get this started.
Yeah, or English pants. That was really good.
All right, so here we go. Hopefully this works.
The solution might be too hard.
Yeah, let's give it a go. Is it? Okay, cool. Displays. Ah, sweet. Awesome. So, does everyone know what WebIntents is? Do you want me to kind of give a brief introduction? Or okay, so WebIntents basically is a client-side framework to allow applications to discover and communicate with each other without actually ever having to know about their specific APIs or their specific services on either end. So if you, right, it might be a silly question, this one. Has anyone got an iPhone? Most people got iPhones. Has anyone got an Android phone? Right, so anyone with an Android phone will probably be instantly familiar with this mechanism, this intents mechanism. Essentially what happens is there are actions built inside the Android browser, things like share, save, send, those type of things. And once an application invokes that action, what happens is a list of applications pops up. And that list of applications is basically a set of apps that support that action. So the application says, I can support image sharing. And the client application, whether it's like the browser and you want to share a URL, will say, I need to share a URL. And then the browser will, or not the browser, but the application will say, well, I've got a list of applications which support URL sharing. Choose one, and then it sends that URL straight to that application. It could be Twitter, it could be Google+. The great thing about it is that the browser doesn't know about Twitter or Google+, and Google+ doesn't know about the browser. And the really cool thing about that is it's like we start to get these applications talking, working together without actually having to have very explicit contracts between them, but also without actually having to know about them either. So my two applications, service and client, they don't need to know about each other, but they can actually start to work with each other and give a great user experience for the users. And this is exactly what we want to do on the web. We want to bring that same type of functionality to enable people to build applications that talk to each other quickly. Make it super simple for developers to do it so that you can provide great experiences for users, whether it's things like image editing, URL sharing, and all those type of stuff. If you're building an application today, and I'm going to show you this application in a minute, it's about 30 lines of code in total, but it allows us to have image editing functionality inside our app. It allows us to pull images in from pretty much anywhere on the web, so whether it's Picasa, whether it's a webcam, all those type of things. And then it allows us to do really cool things like save it out to a cloud file storage system, so whether it's Box, Dropbox, or those different types of services. We can just interact with all these different types of apps and services by just saying, I need this piece of functionality for this piece of data. And then the browser will resolve and mediate that themselves. So actually what's happening is the developer just says, I need something that edits images, and then the browser goes off and finds those applications that support image editing, or URL sharing, or image sharing, all these different types of actions. And then the user selects their preferred application and uses that. So I'm going to go through a demo. I want to show you the code first, because it's actually pretty simple. I'm not going to do too much. This is the entirety of the piece of code that I have for this application. It goes from, can't see it, but it's 30 lines of code. So we support picking images from remote services, pulling that image in, editing the image in my preferred image editing application, and then saving it to somewhere on the web. So the whole idea behind this is we give a great developer experience to enable you to build a great user experience. But anyway, here we go. So this is my demo. So we're going to say, oh, what's on there? We got a bug. Should we file that one? Right, let's give it another go. Choose image. There we are. Pick from Cloud File Picker. So this idea is we're basically saying we need to pick an image from somewhere. This is actually an old build at the moment. But we need to pick an image. We need to bring an image into our image editing application. I've got a couple of choices. I'm going to go with the one I've built the other day called Cloud File Picker. And essentially, this is just a way to actually pick my images from Google. So it's integrated with Picasa. You can pull in your images from kind of your Picasa web albums into your application. So I'm going to pick, that's a picture of my kids. I'm not going to do that one, but I'll do this one here because it's pretty cool. And we basically pulled that image into our application. So it's quite powerful, right? We've just integrated with Picasa. Picasa doesn't know anything about my application, and I don't know anything about Picasa, but I've enabled myself to pull in images from that service. That's pretty cool. But actually, one of the things I really wanted to show was we can get something a little bit better. We can snap from things like the webcam. So this is an application I wrote. Here we go. JavaScript webcam. I'm going to take a picture of you all. All right. Here we go. Wave. Cool. Press go, and it's gone back in. So that's actually kind of powerful, right? We've just basically integrated with the webcam. I didn't have to build webcam integration into my application, but we've got the facility to do that. So I brought it into my application. I want to do something cool with this. So we're going to edit it. I've got some nice image editing applications. Meme Mater, we're going to just do this one. We're going to put just a small tag on it when it loads up. Hello from Brighton. There we go. Press done. So this is the powerful thing now. We've pulled our image in from Picasa, brought it into our application, said, oh, we need to edit this image. Send that image out to an edit, like a good image editing application. It could be something like Photoshop, or it could be something as simple as the Meme Mater kind of application. We brought it back into our application. That's kind of cool. Now we want to save it somewhere. So the theory is we have a save button. Right, you can't see it properly, but there we go, demo imager. And this actually is a different type of, oh wow, didn't work. Okay, so this is a different type of way that we can interact with applications. All the other apps that we've seen, they open up a brand new context, a brand new tab. The user gets switched from their current application into this new app, do the work, and gets pulled back. We have this idea of like an inline disposition where we're saying, actually, the user doesn't want to be taken away from the context, this context, essentially. They want to be able to do that work, and do some more work, but also see it inside the context of what they were working on in this case. And in this case, we're just saving to Imager. So we've basically just integrated with another API that pushes an image onto a cloud-based file system and saves it there. And hopefully this will work. So press this. Okay, this is a little bit crazy at the moment, but the idea is that if we got Imager to integrate with this properly, they would actually make a nicer user interface to fit inside this picker, and it would be a lot nicer experience than what we get at the moment. But the whole idea behind this is that we've actually pushed this live. So we've taken an image from, excuse me, an image from Picasa, edited it in another application, then saved it back out to the web. And that's all with like 30 lines of code, right? So from the developer experience side of things, it's kind of cool and quite powerful. What I want to try and see from this kind of today is actually how we can make that user experience nice, make sure it's consistent. Whether it's like specific calls to action, I've got choose image, edit, save. I've just put them as buttons, right? Do we need them as generic kind of common icons, common colors, common schemes for different types of data? How do we represent a choose image versus a choose video? You select a video from somewhere. Is it the same type of icon? Is it different type? I don't know. I mean, I don't quite know yet. But I'd like to see this because we want this on the public open web, on all sites that support, say, sharing, sharing to a social network. If we have one common action across, basically across the web, do we have the common kind of call to action as well? So we have the say, you can share to the web. Do we have it so it's consistent? Or do we just say, actually, we leave it up to the implementers, so people like at this and everyone can just go and keep their existing brand, but use this intent infrastructure. So I'd like to see that. I also want to show you one other little thing, and I'm not sure whether we want to discuss this today. But this is obviously this is BBC News, right? One of the things that we see from a lot of services that support, say, sharing of URLs, things like Tumblr, Instapaper and all those type of things. I mean, I provided integrations into all these different services. And the reason why I've been able to do that is because they provide a common bookmark. Basically, they have a bookmarklet functionality where you can basically call a URL on their service. I'd like to see whether we can actually build kind of a common bookmarklet in infrastructure. So I've got them here. So the idea behind this is that we've got different actions, things like share, for instance. And I can share this link using any of these different services which we've built in. Let's see if share link to Twitter. So this is pretty cool. Oh, wow. That'll be the wrong password. sign in. So that's pretty cool, right? We've just basically used a common bookmarklet functionality, used Twitter's own web intents infrastructure. It's not using our web intents infrastructure, but we've bridged between the two services because we can control that, right? It's a piece of JavaScript. Using a common piece of bookmarking functionality, we've integrated with these different services. And all these different services tend to offer bookmarkleting functionality. Can we offer one consistent bookmarklet for share and save and those different types of actions across the web? And I don't know whether you want to talk about that today, but it'd be something that I'd like to see. That's the end of my kind of lightning talk. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to see what we get done today. So, any questions, or should we do that later?
Should we do it in between? So has anybody got any questions now?
Yeah.
I think I've forgotten it.
It's not so much of a question, but I think it's worth mentioning. So you've got kind of a vocabulary for different kinds of intents that you can perform. It's maybe worth sort of pointing out a little bit about that, so that there are some different areas that people can.
Actually, that's a good point. Actually, and Ned didn't cover it in the slightest. We do have some basic documentation about this on webintents.org. We have a whole lot of different verbs. One of the biggest ones that we like is pick. So obviously, share is a big one. You know, share some data across the web to any of these different sharing services. We think it's a really big use case. But it's kind of obvious, you know, you share an image, you share a video, you share a link, and all these type of things. We talk about intents as URIs and URLs. The reason why we've got them as URLs at the moment is because we can point them to individual pieces of documentation. So things like webintents.org/pick, that's the pick intent. It doesn't have to be that. I mean, we can probably change that at some point. But the idea is actually, because we've got the URL, we can just go into basically a page that says, this is what the pick intent does, this is how you're expected to interact with it. It's not a strict contract, right? It's not like an XML spec basically, or XSD, sorry. It's like a schema document. It's never meant to be that way. It's just a light way of actually telling developers what it's supposed to do.
And we picked that with the idea that they're going to the actions available should be limitless. So any other service that comes up with this new use case and this really compelling idea can create their own action, and the URL, it doesn't have to, it's just string matching, but we would like it to point to a URL that documents what that new intent actually does. Yeah. So as a developer, it's like extremely easy to interact with it.
It's both as well, isn't it? So it's a very simple layer of namespacing, because if we have two people trying to implement share, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, and Google, we try and implement share different ways with different meanings, then that's where it clashes, right? And we think URLs are good that way, and then at the same time we've got it's just lightweight enough. It could just be a string if you wanted, right? So it's pretty cool. But the use cases that we've got, share is a big one. So you share images out, it's share images, share links. We see this with bookmarklets all the time. Edit images. I need to edit this document, or I need to edit this image. I need to edit this piece of data. Go and find me an application which can support that. So we think edit's going to be really big. We want to be able to kind of integrate a whole lot of different services with that, so that you might like Picnic, you might not like Picnic, you might like PsychoPaint instead. So you go and use PsychoPaint. You don't have to have those forced integrations inside your application, so it's pretty powerful. View, we're kind of working out whether we need View. We think we still do. We're not exactly amazingly sure at the moment. But View is just a lightweight way of saying, I want to open this document and I just want to look at it. I don't particularly want to edit it, all those type of things. Pick is one of the really big ones that we're really looking forward to at the moment, is because you get to be able to say, I want to pick from my cloud-based file storage system and bring it into my application. So I want to pick images, I want to pick videos, documents, whatever it is. It could come from Dropbox, Box.net, or Picasa, and all those type of things.
And that's not necessarily just in the browser, right? So you could have any application implementing pick.
Like, this is the integration point with the platform we think is really not the browser platform, the system platform that we think can be extremely useful. So I could use edit of some image on the web straight with Photoshop on Windows or whatever platform you want to use. We think that can be really powerful.
Yeah.
So pick is not the same as open then?
No, pick is just to pull a file into your application. So open is, I've got some data inside my application, whether it's an image or a video or whatever. Say you want to play a video and you want to play it in your own preferred video player. Because that's one of the things that we don't see on the web so much, is that you've got people like YouTube and Vimeo, where they control the playing experience for their videos. What we don't see is a lot of applications which are just generic players, like the Winamps and all those type of things. We don't really see them just on the web at the moment. And what open or view is supposed to do is, it's basically like the play. It's like the view. It's like, I want to view this Maybe we change it to, maybe we have something that's called play, but these are the things that we can discuss as we go along. But the idea behind view, it's just lightweight way of saying, I want to view this video in my preferred video player, whether it's Plex or whether it's, you know, whatever video player that you have on the web.
So I think one of the analogies that makes it a little easier to comprehend is on system platforms where you say you're Photoshop and you register for pings and JPEGs and all those things. You're registering to, if this content is ever activated of this type, then open your application. I think View and our register content handler functionality that we're adding to WebIntents solves that use case for the web, which doesn't exist now at all. Well, sort of.
Yeah. So we didn't even actually talk about this, but there's one area that we're trying to do as well is there's two APIs in JavaScript, Register Protocol Handler and Register Content Handler. The idea behind them is, you know, Register Protocol Handler says mail to. Anything that's a mail to, I want to open in Gmail. And we think we should be able to define that in the intent system as well. Likewise with Content Handler, it's like basically saying anything that is image/PNG, I want to have it open in my application. All these three different APIs, they should just be one kind of intent system API, and that's what we're trying to do, is trying to unify that in. I don't know whether it makes too much sense to go too much into that today. There's a whole load of other things I think we can probably work on as well, but that's just, I'd let you know that that's one of those areas that we're looking at and working on as well.
Can I just clear my head about this is utterly a web-based environment facility. So working on my desktop and I'm not even I haven't even got the internet switched on, and you're not suggesting that this is a mechanism that gets embedded into applications themselves and can use. So I'm in my mail, like it is on my Android phone, you see. On the Android, it's not dependent on any web connectivity or going out and calling URL.
This isn't actually dependent on web connectivity either, but it all depends on how you build your web applications. So the idea behind this, all the data transfer should, in theory, be all client-side. So you have the data, maybe it's app cached or stored locally inside your application. You pass that along to the client application. You don't proxy it through another server or service. You go from client application to client application, and it's done kind of via like an IPC mechanism.
So there should be a point in the future, if this all works wonderfully well, where I'm offline, I'm viewing a mail, and I can open a document and using this without any...
That is the goal behind this. We don't want to have to force you to have a server and have an internet connection. And that's actually one of the problems that we have with Register Protocol Handler. Is it's unfortunate with the way it's come about, is that you have to have a query string, and anything with a query string can never be app cached. So we can never make them offline. It's just crazy API. But anyway, regardless of that, we want to make sure offline is the big use case behind this. So it's client-to-client communication. You can do server-to-server. If you pass a URL and you have to tell the server to go and fetch from behind the scenes, you can do that. But ideally, we want to have this kind of client-to-client in the client-to-client space.
I think we should probably move on to our next
talk.
There's probably more questions, so we can, like, if anyone has got a question they want to ask now, just maybe save it until the next round of questions, because it might get answered. So,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
thanks guys.